I love helping people to get their voice back, to be able to use their voices, to speak up for themselves, and not just as a child, but as a woman, period, because we lose our voices in so many different ways. For all women, open your mouth and speak up for yourself.
Are you at a crossroads in your career? Ready for a change, but you're not sure how to get there? Don't worry, we are about to produce your best life together. Welcome to the Second Act Success podcast. I am your host, Shannon Russell. I am a former television producer turned boy mom. I left my dream job to find family balance, and in doing so, I produced my dream life. Now I am a business owner, podcaster, and career coach. My mission is to help other women like you find what they are truly meant to be doing. If you are ready to start over in your career or pivot to a new purpose, then get ready to be inspired by stories of women who have done just that. We will share advice and actionable tips to motivate you as you move along on your path. It is time to shine, so let's start producing your balanced life of abundance today. This is Second Act Success. All right, well, I am here with Valeria Elliott, Miss V, the Storyteller. She is a friend of mine. I was on her podcast, and I'm so excited to have her here on Second Act Success. Welcome, Miss V.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed you thoroughly on my show. We connected, we clicked. We was like old girlfriends, just chatting about all kinds of things. So I'm so excited to be here on your podcast.
I know we can just chat again. We're hanging out. Virginia, New Jersey. We're
Yes.
together
East
on the
Coast
podcast.
ladies.
Well, I can't wait to turn the tables now and talk to you and ask you some questions. You have such an interesting background, and I want to start early with you. I want to start from your childhood. Tell me how your childhood was and any difficulties you may have had growing up.
Well, at the age of 6, I made a decision to stop talking and stop speaking up for myself out of my family dynamics and just trying to stay out of trouble. My dad was a yeller and I was number 3. However, being number 3, I was fluffy and I call myself fluffy, not fat. And everyone else came into the world skinny. So I already had issues. So I just said, I'm just going to stop talking. Going to school, I didn't talk. But luckily, I did have a few teachers who could pull something out of me. My mom constantly got phone calls and notes at home saying that your daughter is not talking. And I don't really think they knew how to handle that. And as a 6-year-old, if you have a 6-year-old, we don't make the best decisions because we're children.
Mm-hmm.
In my case, it went on a little bit too long.
Right, because you would think that something would make you talk, a treat, a snack, something, but you felt like it was just easier to stay quiet. Do you think, looking back, that you wanted that extra attention? Did you want something to change at home so that you could start speaking up again?
I think for me, I was always afraid. I was a child that was always afraid of things. And when I realized that me not talking kept me out of trouble for the most part, I didn't have to argue with my siblings. I didn't have to worry about being yelled at so much. I mean, I didn't completely stop talking because I had to communicate with my parents,
Mm.
but anything outside of essential needs, or if I wanted to go outside or something like that, that was it. It wasn't
Yeah.
like a sit down conversation. That was not going to happen because what you
Mm-mm.
were going to get was crickets, silence. Because I'm afraid that if I say something, it's going to make you mad, it's going to make you angry, and you're going to yell at me. So I'm not going to say anything. It was just my way of protecting myself from being
Mm.
yelled at, from anything. It was just a protection decision.
Yeah, I can see that. And I think you probably felt a little bit of relief knowing that you were going to stay out of any chaos
Mhm.
in the house. So tell me about growing up in school. Even at school, when you were away from your family, you still kind of kept to yourself?
Whew, it was horrible. Horrible. Because the same thing happened. I didn't really speak up for myself. Being shy, being fluffy, kids are not nice when you're bigger than them. And I don't mean tall, I mean, just bigger. When you're
Yeah.
bigger than them. And when they realized that I wasn't a talker, they would joke me and say mean things to me. And it wasn't good. Middle school was hell.
Mm,
It was horrible. And into high school, that's where I got physically bullied.
mm,
I was joked and taunted and all that through school, but in high school is where I got physically bullied. Out of the one time I actually spoke up and said something for myself, and I don't know who made me say that because I didn't make the choice. Something jumped in my body and just made my lips move,
mhm,
and the guy got extremely upset with me. It was just a bad situation where he kept pushing me in a locker, and it took me telling my mom. And that wasn't easy because I wasn't going to tell her because I knew he was going to kill me if I told her. She got tired of me coming home every day looking like I had been crying because I
mm.
was. And she made me tell her. And she called the school and she said some words.
She was being a
she,
good
she
mom.
she protected me, and she
Mhm,
told him basically if that bully puts his hands on my child one more time, I'm going to come up to school and put my hands on somebody, or you won't like it.
mhm.
And the next day, my teacher, who always left the classroom every day, he would give us an assignment. He said it was too hot in there. He would give us an assignment and he would leave. That particular day, he stayed in the classroom, and we were all like, why is he here? What's going
Mm.
on? And then I thought, oh my God. So I figured if my teacher knew, the bully knew. And I looked at him and his eyes looked red. He looked like his eyes were like bloodshot red. I'm like, I'm going to die today. I'm literally he's going to kill me because he know I told. I walked out into the hallway and I'm looking, and the coast was clear, and this dude jumped out from nowhere and he was going to finish me off.
No.
My teacher, he came from nowhere and grabbed him before he could finish me off. And I didn't see him that much, if any, after that incident. And my teacher, Mr. Singleton, became my Superman. I mean,
Yeah.
he saved my life. I felt like he saved my life. So for me, high school, it wasn't a very pleasant place for me. Now, don't get me wrong, I had a couple of friends and they befriended me. I didn't go after them. There were some nice people, and God put some nice teachers in my way, to help me because I was having such a hard time. But again, me not talking did help me some because in class, I didn't get in trouble. It did protect me, except for the bully, but.
Right, but that would have been a point where you just were pushed to your limits that day.
And I think what drove him over is the fact that I was someone that he knew he could joke, and he knew I wasn't going to say anything back.
Mhm.
And the fact that I spoke up and said something back, and then the class just bust out laughing, I think the class was shocked because when I opened my mouth and I said something back to them, they were like, "Oh my God." And then they bust out laughing because they were shocked like me. I'm like, who said that?
Yeah.
Who did that? And I think that's the thing that made him angry
He was
is because
embarrassed.
he was embarrassed, but he thought I was an easy target,
That's
you
what bullies
know.
do, yeah.
Yeah. They was, oh, I can get her. And I was like, oh, maybe that's why I needed to speak up. My mom helped me to not be bullied. If it hadn't
Yeah.
happened most likely, I would have went the rest of the school year being bullied, joked, and all that. So it was a bad story, but the outcome was good.
Your mom was being such a great mom, and I think she could see, okay, my daughter isn't speaking a lot, not telling me a lot, but I can tell in her eyes she's been crying. Moms know that. Yeah.
Something's going on, and she made me, and I did.
Mm.
I'm glad she made me tell her.
Yeah. So did you find yourself starting to talk again after that point? Tell me about
No,
it. Okay, so talk to me.
no.
No?
I went until I was 23 years old.
Wow.
And I became a Christian. And one day I was like, Lord, I just can't keep going on like this. I know this can't be the life that you have chosen for me. People are constantly hurting me. They talk over me. They talk down to me. They joke me. I am so tired of feeling that hurt and pain all the time. I want to have some joy. I want to laugh. And not that I didn't have some moments in my church, because God put the right people in my life, but in the general public and in like out in the world, the same thing was happening. God gave me my voice back. However, I tell anybody, when you pray, be careful how and what you pray for, because I got my voice back, but not in a not so good way. My voice in my mouth became a weapon of destruction. I had turned into all those people who had hurt me. I had turned into them. I was cussing people out. I was hurting people before they hurt me. I had had all those years of hurt and pain. That's all I knew. And it was horrible. And then one day, God allowed me to hear myself at a football game. I heard the way that I was talking, and I almost burst out in tears. I couldn't believe it. I realized, I said, oh my God, I have now turned into the bullies and the people who've hurt me. I can't live like this anymore. This is
Mhm.
not what I'm supposed to be doing. I went back down on my knees again and I was like, Lord, please, you have got to give me a happy medium. I cannot walk around professing to be a Christian and cussing people out. And I realized I'm not perfect, but I can do better. I know that I can do better. And God did just that. Once God helped me to say, okay, pull it in, you have to do better. And I had to go through some healing. I had to forgive some people and I had to do some serious hard work. I call it hard work. I had to go in and I had to try to get all of that hurt out of me in order for me to move on and to be a better me.
Oh, I'm so sad for you because you are so full of joy and so full of happiness, and you spread so much of that now. It hurts my heart to think you felt that way through your childhood and adolescence. And I see how finding God really changed your life. And then maybe meeting him, going through it, you had some mixed signals, but then to come back around and say, no, this is the version of me that I want to be.
I realize now, if I had not have gone through all those things, then I wouldn't be the person that I am today and I wouldn't be able to help other people. I love the feeling that I'm now able to help someone else. And
Mhm.
I love it. I love helping people to get their voice back, to be able to use their voices, to speak up for themselves, and not just as a child, but as a woman, period, because we lose our voices in so many different ways. For all women, open your mouth and speak up for yourself. And the key to it in speaking up for yourself for me is this: your tone. It's your tone of voice and your delivery. Sometimes you have to come at someone a certain way to get your point across. But if you season your words, I call it seasoning. If you season your words and you say it out of love, compassion, and help, they will receive it a lot better. Even if you're correcting them, they will receive it. They may not like it, but you've gotten it out of you. Now, what they do with it is totally up to them, but you've gotten it out of you.
Mhm.
And I love the person that I am now. I will speak up for myself everywhere. But usually if I choose not to say anything, it's usually for the other person because I'm feeling a certain kind of way. And I'm like, if I open my mouth once it's out, I can't get it back. And I'm gonna have to go and apologize. So let me just walk away. Let me
Right.
just go over here. Let me pull myself together, gather my thoughts. And if I feel the need to address this situation, I'll go back. People look at, oh, she's always running off or she's walking away. Most of the time, it's to save your life. It's to save you. Like I said, I'm 75%. I'm not 100%. So I will choose to walk away. And I have done it numerous times where, somebody has, I'm like, oh my God, there's people in the world that have a gift of making you angry or mad. It's just something about them.
Button
And
pushers, right? They just push your buttons. Yep.
yes, and you have to learn how to deal with them. So I'm like, you know what? I can't talk to you right now. I'll be back. Go to the bathroom,
Yep.
pray, do whatever I need to do, and then come back.
Hey, it's Shannon. If you are enjoying this podcast, then you will love my weekly newsletter. It's full of career advice, productivity tips, and of course, inspiring stories of women who have launched a new career that they love. Just go to secondactsuccess.co to sign up. Plus, you'll get the My Success Vision Board to help you with your 2023 planning as well. Now it's back to the episode. So let's talk about, so from high school, you said you regained your voice at 23. So you graduate from high school and you're still kind of in that same position. Do you talk to me about like your next steps? Is it college? Are you starting to work?
When I was in high school, they had this program where you would be in school half day, and then the other half you would go to vocational school. And I chose cosmetology because I had always wanted to be a cosmetologist because my grandfather, he had a beauty shop and a barber shop, and he was like the greatest person in my world. I thought he was the best person. It's
Hmm.
my great grandfather. When I finished high school, I had my cosmetology license. So I went there, and being there gave me some relief because I was doing something that I absolutely love and I could be myself. It was just me and my customers. So I was able to laugh and joke with them. It wasn't any eyes on me or anything. I was in a zone. My father told me that if I didn't go to college right after school, that he was not going to pay for it. I chose to start working in a salon because that's what I wanted to do. But I realized, I can't be 35, 40, 45 still standing up curling people's hair. That's just me. Now, anybody else can do it. If you want to do it, you can do it. But I'm like, nah, I don't think I still want to be standing up. So I might need to go back to school. And I paid for it myself. And I went back to school for education and I became a teacher. The things that I did were the things that I love. But slowly, me going back on my knees, slowly, it was okay because God allowed me to speak up for myself. And I didn't get the same reactions. I didn't get that same feeling. And I'm like, oh, okay. So this is what it feels like to speak up and not
Right.
have your feelings hurt. This is what it feels like to say something and people will receive it positively and they still like you and love you. So he would send people my way to help me. And then me realizing as a Christian, I have to do hard work. Hard work is so important for you to move on because your heart is like the most important organ and it's the most important thing in your body. And when your heart is tainted, when it's wrong, that's what you show. Your heart reflects who you are. And I'm like, I don't want my heart to reflect that I'm a hurt, injured, bad person. I want my heart to radiate happiness and joy and positive things and love. So, Lord, help me fix this. And what is so ironic, I thought I had my full voice back. About 2 months ago, I realized that I didn't. I had a conversation, and when I got off the phone, I said to myself, why didn't you say anything? Why did you go back to the 6 year old?
Oh.
What was happening was I wasn't speaking up to some family members. I was still the 6 year old when it came to I realized and I want all my voice back and I had to forgive them. I had to
Mm.
do my hard work. I had to first go back and forgive them for all the years in the past
Right.
where they had hurt me, where they had joked me, where they had gotten me in trouble. You know, I had to forgive my parents for not helping me. I had to do all of that forgiveness. And then I had to go back and I had to speak up for myself. And it was three conversations, and each one of them, I said what I needed to say. And I watched my tone
Yep.
and I came out of love and compassion, but I needed to get it across that they were not going to continue to do this to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was it. I felt good. It's like, oh my God.
Right. 100 pounds
Now I
lighter.
feel
It's
like, yeah, I'm like, now I feel like I have my whole voice back because I'm speaking up to everyone now. I didn't even realize that I wasn't speaking up to my siblings. I didn't realize it.
Miss V. It sounds like when you were reclaiming your voice when you were an adult, you were around the people that made you feel comfortable at the hairdressing. All of that were people that you felt comfortable with. And it's funny that it takes you till a few months ago to really find your voice with the people that you were the most uncomfortable to do that with. So you should
But
feel really proud.
that girl is gone. She is gone. I
Good.
don't know. I don't even want to see her anymore.
No, I can't. I wouldn't recognize you if you were her at all. So talk to me about those stages in your life and to the amazing person that you are today and how you're using your voice.
Well, what happened was God told me that He wanted me to be a storyteller. He said, what I want you to do is I want you to tell your personal stories. Unlike regular storytellers, they tell other stories or they make up stories and all that. He said, no, enough has happened to you that you can share all your stories. So I start writing, and I was writing all these different stories. Every time something came to mind, I was like, oh, that would be a great story. Like the story I told you about my dad, me
Hmm.
going to get my hearing checked. That's one of my stories that I share. The bullying story is the one that I share. I share all these stories, and I'm finding that people connect to those stories. And what happens is when you connect with someone, you create a bond. Life is stories. If you look at your life, it's a bunch of stories and chapters. When one chapter closes, another one opens up. And I look at my life and I'm like, oh my God, I can see me being a storyteller. I can see all the stories in my life. And when I go back and revisit one of them, it's not for me to stay there. It's to go back and say, oh, on chapter 15, this is what happened. And this is what I learned from it. Close it and move forward,
Hmm.
not to stay in chapter 15, just to move on. And God is like, use your stories, help people. And then he was like, okay, now that you've done that, I want you to put it on a podcast. And then I put all these stories on a podcast, and people love it. People find themselves in my story and they realize, oh my God, we have so much in common. Our outcomes may be different. We may come from different worlds, but as long as the end result is something positive, it doesn't matter.
You want to feel that
Right.
you're not alone, and you felt alone for so many years
Hmm.
growing up. So now I'm sure just talking about your story and having a listener or having a guest relate to you makes you feel full as a person.
I love it. Just like when you came on, I
Yeah.
was like, that's how we connected through stories. We want to have connection with people. We want to feel love and joy. Someone that would listen to this podcast and say, I know her because that was me. I lost my voice.
Hmm.
But then they listen to me and I'm like, I want my voice back just like her. I want to be happy. I want to share. I want to open my voice up and listen. And as you're getting it, you don't beat yourself up if you slip and you fall back into it, because it's so easy for me to go back to her, the
Yeah.
6 year old. It's real easy for me to go to the cuss her out or two when somebody make me mad. But I make a conscious effort not to become them because
Right.
they are part of me, but I'm like, nope, I'm going to speak up this time.
I love that. That's so inspirational. Just heart work and really working on your heart to make you the person you want to be.
And then you're checking on your heart. Check on your heart, do that forgiveness, go back and fix it.
So you were a hairdresser, you were a teacher, you've gone through these different stages, and then you decide, or God decides, that you need to have this podcast to
Mhm.
share your voice and your stories with the world. How did you even learn to start a podcast and actually make this come to life?
The stories and the writing and all that was already there. I think that was a natural gift that I had, and I just didn't tap into it. When the pandemic started and God had shared with me about being a storyteller, the weekend that the world shut down, I was at a conference, a storytelling conference. I was there, I met my storytelling mentor, and that's when I told my first story. And it was received so well. People were like, oh my God, you're not a professional storyteller? I'm like, no, that's why I came here to learn. And I met my storytelling mentor, and I came home, I researched, I was going to classes, I was going to conferences. What we do now is we
Yeah.
do video calls and we do Zoom, and I was entering contests because people weren't coming to the building anymore. So they start doing it on different forms, and I did several and I won a couple
Wow.
storytelling
Mhm.
because of the world shutting down. I was able to be home and I was able to study. I was able to learn my craft.
Right. You started your second act at a
I
time where the world was so low.
I did. And I start writing. I wrote a book because God was giving me stories.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it at first. I was dreaming of, literally, the characters were coming in my head and they had personalities. And I remember one Saturday I woke up and God said, I want you to write. I want you to just write it and get it all out. That day, all I did was write, go to the bathroom and eat. That was it. And
Yeah.
I wrote the intro to all my characters, and I finished the book. God is like, it's 4 other books out there, and I know the characters already to the 4 other books. I know the plot, I know everything to them because they're in my head. And I haven't published them yet. Only the one book I did, but all the other books I haven't yet because I believe in God's timing. I know all of this is stuff is coming up, but you have to prioritize it, and timing is key.
So the first book that you wrote, tell us about that.
The first book is an anthology. A friend of mine gathered a group of women. We all wrote stories, and my stories in the book about me losing my voice. And it's called Living in the Key of Joy. You can get it on Amazon. The other books, I'm just waiting for the time, and I'm going to say, here, edit, let's publish.
I love it. So now you're just concentrating on the podcast. How is it going? Tell me some of the things you've learned from it, some of the cool people you've had a chance to meet.
The very first person that I had on my podcast was one of my parents when I taught school. I had taught his son. He has always been a comedian, always playing jokes on me, always making me laugh. I mean, that's just our relationship. And so the way my podcast kind of goes is you more or less find a story, and that's what we start talking about because that's what's connecting us. And he chose a story journaling through my feelings. And that's a very deep story. That's not his personality that I knew. And I learned a whole different part of him. He was depressed. So he started journaling, and I learned so much about him. And he said, I did it for my children because I didn't want my children to go through the things that I did. So I start journaling, and then I start writing, and my kids, they see me doing this. And I was like, this is not the Howard I know and love. This is a whole different person. But he used his comedic side to mask that person that was inside. And I'm like, any man listen to this, they're going to learn so much. And I was like, okay, now I see what you mean by the stories.
Yeah.
Now I understand.
This is your mission, it sounds like, your service to others. With Second Act Success and the conversations that we have, we talk a lot about how our first act leads us into our second act. And it really is a cohesive story because there's always a thread that kind of connects the two. What would you think the thread is kind of connecting your life prior to finding your voice and your life after?
Making decisions, good or bad, because there was a decision that was made as a 6-year-old that wasn't probably the best decision to make. However, that decision and everything I went through allowed me to get to my second act because none of those things would have happened. So, although the decision might have been bad, the outcome right now is a good one.
Is a good one. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Do you think that our voice is our most valuable asset?
I think it can be at times. Yes, I do. I think very valuable. But I go back to your heart because what's in your heart is going to come out of your mouth. If you're an angry person, if you're a bitter person, it's going to reflect out of your mouth, out of the things that you say. So, yes, your mouth can be, but your heart is so key. It will shine or it will hurt and cause other people pain. Make sure your heart right, and then out of your mouth, blessings will come.
It's almost like there has to be a filter, like your brain has to be the filter between
Mhm.
what's in your heart and what comes out.
Right. Absolutely, yes. And sometimes what goes on in your brain is not so right because of what's in your heart.
Right? Oh my gosh, it's all intertwined.
Yes.
Name one thing that these different chapters in your life have taught you.
Never ever lose my voice again, to always speak up for myself. But make sure when I'm speaking up for myself, it's out of love and kindness and never hurt or to tear someone down.
That's beautiful. Would you recommend taking a leap into a big life change to your best friend?
Only if it came from God and she or he has done some serious soul searching and it's absolutely what they want and not what someone else wants. If you can't say yes to some those things, if it's not what you want, somebody's trying to make you do it, then the answer would be no.
What is one piece of advice that you would give to someone who's trying to start a second act or just a new chapter in their life?
Make sure it's yours, your desire is what you want, and to ask for what you want. Oftentimes, we have a business, we have a desire, we have a dream, and we want it so bad. But when we are connected with people, we don't ask for what we want, we settle. No, it's yours. Ask for what you want.
So, what does the next chapter look like for you, Miss V?
Well, I am so excited about my next chapter. My next chapter consists of me writing my books and getting them out into the world and teaching people how to tell their story, to help them to find their voice in their story and to get it out.
Can I see some coaching in your future? Are you going to be coaching
Yes.
people?
Oh yes. Yes. I love to teach because I love to see people succeed. I love to see people learn and to grab something. So, yeah, I see me coaching and helping people. Yes.
Yes, you'd be an amazing teacher to just teach people to find their voice,
Mhm.
express it in any way they need to. I'm excited to
Yes.
see that. That'll be great. Where can our audience connect with you now?
I am on all the social media platforms. I'm Miss V the Storyteller, Miss V the Storyteller podcast. It's out there anywhere you listen for the most part. I am out there. Just type in Miss V the Storyteller and a beautiful picture of me will pop up.
And I suggest that everyone listen because I'm telling you, it's uplifting, wonderful to just feel like you're not so lonely. So if you're in a bad spot and you just need a little bit of pep in your day and some smiles and a wonderful voice to talk to you, Miss V, the Storyteller, is just your podcast to listen to. And I just can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing your story, Miss V.
Thank you so much. I have thoroughly enjoyed it, and you are such a joy. Easy breezy. It's just like we are sisters with different moms. I love it. I hope I did your show some great service.
Oh.
I hope your listeners will love what they hear and will grow and speak up for themselves.
Yes, absolutely. You just spread so much joy and kindness. So I'm so happy to have you here. And I'm looking forward to everything that you have down the road. And I can't wait for our listeners to check you out. So thank you, Miss V.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. I hope you found some gems of inspiration and some takeaways to help you on your path to second act success. To view show notes from this episode, visit secondactsuccess.co. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. Reviews only take a few moments and they really do mean so much. Thank you again for listening. I'm Shannon Russell, and this is Second Act Success.